Hello, everyone, and welcome to WriterSpeak, dedicated to the written word and those who produce it. I am your host, Jeane Slone. I am the author of 3 historical fictions, She Flew Bombers, She Built Ships, and She Was an American Spy During World War II. Today in our studio, I would like to introduce Carol Hannum. Welcome to WriterSpeak, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to talk about your book, but first I would like our audience to know your background. You wrote quite a very unique book, and the book is titled The Holon Method, a breakthrough in energy, medicine, and step-by-step guide to powerful self-healing. And I think it would be important to hear your background, that Carol Hannum is a graduate minister of Psychic Horizons School for Meditation, Healing, and Intuition Development in San Francisco, and holds a second minister's certificate from the Clairvoyant Center in Hawaii. Carol received her Doctorate of Divinity from the Association for the Integration of the Whole Person, and a BS Psych degree from Washington State University, and a BLA from UC Berkeley. Quite a lot, very impressive. And Carol resides in Sebastopol here in Sonoma County. And you are a highly gifted clairvoyant, and you've been practicing successfully various forms of alternative healing modalities for decades. Mm-hmm. The first item I think that our audience would be interested to know is, what is the term Holon? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay, holon is a Greek word for whole, basically, very simply.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a really good name when you explain what it means. And can you describe to us what the Holon method is?
The Holon method is spiritual technology for the end of creating rapid recovery and wellness. It relies on words as opposed to devices or anything else. And the words are very specifically put together to create what's called commands. And these commands are not demands or caveats, they're instructions to people's high self to clear pathogens out or clear toxins out, and also repair tissue. So this is, in essence, what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was curious, when did you first discover that you had a special intuitive ability that you'd call being clairvoyant?
Mm-hmm. Okay. This was actually in 1975, and I had a dream that said somebody had died. And I called all my friends the next morning and said, "Hi, how are you? Are you okay?" and so forth. And I didn't tell them what my dream was. Mm-hmm. And then a septic guy called. He was supposed to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. He was calling late, and it was about his sister-in-law who just died. So anyway, I had an experience of a clairvoyant dream. then, and I talked to some friends about it, and they said, well, why don't you take some classes? So I began to take some classes locally and kept doing my studies. As a medical intuitive, I learned that I was one of those because one of my teachers here said, I've got an ovary problem, and can you tell me which side it's on? And so I immediately told her exactly what side the ovary problem was. And she said, wow, okay, this is great. So I began to just wantonly exercise my powers and to people that I didn't know, and it was a little bit interesting that way. I have a little bit more restraint now. So this is basically what happened.
It sounds like she was testing you.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, it was kind of dicey there.
What did you specifically want to achieve in writing this book?
I wanted it to be a prescriptive self-help manual so people can take their own power and become their own physician.
And would you call it a workbook?
It is partly a workbook and then partly narrative and partly explanatory.
It's very interesting when one looks through it because of the illustrations are very helpful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Could you tell us more about commands?
Mm-hmm.
And give us maybe an example. I think I would understand more if you could do that.
No, okay. One of the commands is dealing with balancing the energy of the body, of the nervous system. So I first ask spirit. So the actual first command is spirit, balance the left and right autonomic and voluntary nervous system and adjust various electrical points on the body to 100% exponentially. And this is a call to spirit and the person's high self to do it fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens quite quickly that the person is
And
balanced.
that's when you are working with somebody, but
Mhm.
somebody can be taught to use these commands themselves.
Absolutely. And I do it myself on me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you call the color process?
Mm-hmm. I started the color process in around 1982, 83, and that was when, after several healings that a group of us did for people here and there, we used white light to heal, and that was kind of ho-hum and didn't, to my mind, produce really great results. And then I found out about the work of Dinshaw P. Gadali, and Dinshaw, as his name was called, was a color healer, and he used lenses with light behind them to shine on people, and he got very excellent results with different colors of light. So I said, well, why not use the light and send it clairvoyantly to people instead of having them sit under a colored light for a while. So I tried that, and I had an office in Sebastopol and worked with that. And that was very effective. And so I continued with that. And it was a long process, but I developed that process, and certain colors were good for certain things in the body. and to cleanse and repair.
Can you give us an example of the colors and what they mean?
Yeah. So a grass green is a cleansing color. Blue, the color blue is the color of oxygen, because all these colors have chemical components or corollaries. So blue is the color of oxygen. So if you want to energize somebody's lungs and bring some oxygen in, you just clairvoyantly send the color blue to them. And this was actually measured on one of the oximeters in a hospital, too, with a client.
Can only certain people who have that gift, are they the only people who can do that?
No, actually.
Oh.
The color method did single people out. The recent command method completely reverses that, so anybody who can read the commands and get a healing.
Somebody started out with the actual color lenses, and you wanted to sidestep that process. It makes me think, though, that people who are more gifted can do that than an ordinary person, but I guess they have to just be open to being trained.
With the color process?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have to be open to being trained, and not too many people can do it.
Oh.
Lots of people can do the Holon method, though. Yeah. Yeah, so it really narrowed the audience down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Though probably some people would work better with the actual colors than the lenses and colors than the clairvoyant method, I imagine. I was wondering, what is your opinion about taking various vitamins and minerals?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that, because I think people are overdosed with vitamins and minerals, and that is not the root of the problem.
I agree. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. I have a client who listed on her intake form about 50 different vitamins and minerals. And I said, oh my God, your poor system is so confused, and it's not getting to the root of the problem. And I discovered the root of her problem was that she had a lot of parasites and toxins in her body, and that was causing the problem. So any amount of things that you add is just going to not hit it.
And I know in your book you said you believe more in obtaining vitamins and minerals the natural way through proper nutrition.
Yeah, and especially when the body is cleaned out, especially the bowel is cleaned out, the absorption rate is really higher, and so you can really absorb natural vitamins and minerals in a synergistic way, like juices and veggie shakes and fruit shakes. Half an hour.
That is remarkable. Must be very satisfying for you. I know you have various people training under you. What does that entail?
That entails taking the first course, which is a self-healing course. And there you learn some dowsing skills to find out what's going on with your body. So it's geared more to the self.
Oh.
And then you can use the commands. But before you use the commands, then you have to learn exactly what's going on and target the issue. And that's what I teach, basically. And then I teach some foundational work of Dr. Hulda Clark, who did work on various diseases, and she found that the diseases were due to parasites and toxins. So the foundational work I teach, and also the some of the bacteria, parasites, and viruses, and what they are, their names, and what they mean, and what they do to the body.
I read in your book that you have successfully healed animals.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that people can do that.
Absolutely.
It seems like there would be a high interest in that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a few cases of animals that you have healed?
Yeah. One of my very favorite ones is a dumpster dog that somebody pulled out of an Hawaiian dumpster, and it was a little pit bull mix. And anyway, the person called me, and she said, I've just taken my dog Ioli to the vet, and the vet doesn't think that the dog is going to live, and it is just so infected and down. So I thought of you immediately. So I said, oh my God, you know, a matter of life or death, you know. So I worked and found that this dog had a severe staph infection, and it was leaking fluids all over the body, from the kidney and from the liver, and nothing was being contained properly. So I did a clearing on this dog, and I woke up in the morning, and I got a call from my friend, and she said, thank you for working on Ioli. And I said, yeah, well, tell me. And she said, well, the dog is gone home with us and not euthanized. So she was very, very happy about that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say clearing.
Clearing, I asked Spirit to release toxins, shall we say, in the body. And Spirit and the high self of the person knows how to do that. I don't know how it knows how to do it, but it does, because the molecules are very different with a toxin than they are with regular substances. So there must be a distinguishing between size of molecules, is all the only thing I can figure out. So that is a toxin clearing.
I'm curious about your cases with human beings.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you talk about, I think it was a Down syndrome child that didn't talk. Tell us about that one. That was so fascinating to me.
Yeah. Okay, this little boy lived in Alaska. He was 12 years old, and his mother just explained to me what he had, Down syndrome, and he was just a mess at school, and it was in a special place, category of education, and he kicked and screamed and was just a very big behavior problem, and had to be monitored and all the time, both at home and in school, because he was pretty destructive, because he couldn't talk or get his needs met.
Yeah.
So anyway, I worked on him for maybe about 4 sessions. And I didn't really expect much, but what I did do was find a way to work on the original ovum, because this was a genetic correction that I did. So I went back in time, because in healing there's no time. There's forward time and backward time and present time, and it just doesn't seem to make any difference. So this is what we did. So the commands were geared to going backwards in time and getting the original ovum and the 8 cells. So clearing those, and then clearing all the gestation period, all the way up to birth. That was pretty amazing what happened. It was the first time I'd worked on a Down syndrome person, and I had no expectations. So I called the mom and asked what's happening, and she said, well, there have been some really big changes made, that he's able to listen with the family. His school behavior has straightened out too. That was much better. And then he would just kind of make motions with his mouth and point and so forth to get what he wanted. Couldn't really talk. I think he had a few words. But then, a few months later, he was actually able to talk for the first time. And he said a couple of things, but the thing I remember she saying was that he was sitting on the couch with her, and he looked up at her and said, "I love you, Mom." And okay, I think that's a healing, you know.
Yeah.
And then
did the mother also help you?
She was very great because she explained a lot of things. She was very clairvoyant.
Mm-hmm.
And was able to help me a lot in understanding what he was going through.
People can listen to the method via audio. That's what that means?
Right. So what happens, I have 4 audio downloads, and one is straightening the spine, which is very effective. Mm-hmm. And people say that they've used that. I've just had one client report an email that she has used that particular download, and she said that was enormously helpful. So that, I'm really glad of that. And then the other downloads are for environmental illness.
I noticed on your website you have a list of safe products, from soaps to herbs.
That is totally necessary to complete the healing. They'll usually get a healing, they'll want to get fixed. And then they'll go out and buy a McDonald's hamburger. And sometimes, I'm exaggerating, but this happens. Uh-huh. And so this will be able to guide them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be able to hold the healing.
To not have it go in reverse.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. Right. It is a wonderful book. I see why you call it a workbook. Mm-hmm. And where can we buy this amazing book?
Okay, well, it's listed in the credits.
I would like to thank you, Dr. Hannum, for joining us on WriterSpeak and sharing this wonderful method with us.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure, really.
WriterSpeak is produced at the C Media Labs in the North Bay. We would like to thank our sponsors, the Sonoma County Gazette and the Redwood Writers, a branch of the California Writers Club. Please join us next time for another exciting episode with a local author.